Hello everyone, this is Dalster and welcome to another music topics video, and in this video I will go over Serj Tankian's book Down with the System, a memoir of sorts that was released in 2024. For those of you who don't know, Serj Tankian is the lead singer for the band System of a Down, one of my favorite bands actually. I heard the book through Audible and wanted to do a review and also share my take on it as to why I think System of a Down might never be making new music. System of a Down were huge in the early 2000s, but took a long break towards the end of 2006. A lot of fans, especially myself, wondered what happened and who is to blame. Last year, I actually went to a 4th of July small concert in Garden Grove, and one of the opening acts was a tribute band to System of a Down called Disorder. At the time, I wasn't much of a System of a Down fan until I saw this tribute band, and became addicted to System of a Down's music since then. System of a Down's music got me through some tough times, most notably some angry or stressful thoughts in 2024. I can't go a day without listening to at least one of their songs. As a teen, I remember hearing Chop Suey and Lonely Day as I started looking into the band because a guy who I thought was cute at the time told me that he liked the band. I don't know which System of a Down song I heard first, but it might have been BYOB, Bring Your Own Bomb, because I used to turn on my TV and listen to the music videos on MTV while getting ready for school, back when MTV was at its prime. When I saw the music video, I thought it was weird because of the troops walking with the word obey on their helmets, and hearing Darren, the guitarist of System of a Down, yell, "You!" followed by a screechy scream of, "Why do they always send the poor?" Again, I thought it was very weird and dark at the time, as I used to be very judgmental, so every time they put that music video up, I would go to another channel. Nowadays, I can't stop listening to that song because I love how the guitars and Serj's vocals sound in it. It also has a strong message regarding politics, which I don't like to talk about on this channel, but I will a little bit for this video as Serj is a very political guy. When I heard that he wrote a memoir, I bought the Audible version as soon as I found out. I heard it twice, and it was interesting as Serj has a somewhat relaxing voice. Listening to it, I thought the book was going to talk about all the stories of life on the road for System of a Down, but it talked about Serj's ancestry and the Armenia genocide. The Armenia genocide was a tragic and sad event that happened in 1915 in Armenia, as it killed over 100,000 to 1,000,000 Armenian people. I heard a little bit of it when I watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Probably not a reliable source of history, by the way. Once I got into System of a Down and how their music spreads awareness that the genocide existed, I learned a lot more. Serj's book talks about the genocide and what his grandfather, Stepan, had to go through when he experienced that harsh event. Anyways, I'll go over and summarize the book first and share my thoughts in the end, as I kinda made this introduction a little too long. The book starts off with Serj waking up at a hotel in Colorado. System of a Down's second album, Toxicity, had hit the music charts at number 1 on 9/11/2001, the day the planes hit the Twin Towers in New York and the Pentagon in Virginia. Hours after the news reported the terrorist attacks, Serj was called in for a radio interview with media personality Howard Stern. On the day of 9/11, Serj had written an essay on the 9/11 attacks, but the US was not happy about it, as Americans back in the day were scared and grieving. The rest of the band, which included Shavo, Darren, and John, were scared as well for being called out and possibly getting their careers tarnished because of Serj's essay. Even Howard was not giving Serj the benefit of the doubt, as he was angry at Serj for that essay that he had posted. Some Americans thought that Armenia was a Middle East country, but it actually wasn't, as it is part of West Asia. Since System of a Down were all Armenian, many US people thought that they were Arabic or Middle Easterners. Serj was able to explain himself while getting interviewed with Howard. However, their biggest hit, Chop Suey, was banned on the radio along with many other songs during the 9/11 post-attacks. When he first came to the USA, Serj did not know how to speak English. The setting of the book changes to Serj recounting his memories of the stories that his grandfather Stepan had told him before he passed away. His grandfather Stepan lived during the time of the Armenia-Turkey War and said that it was a terrifying experience. Stepan was born in Ifkere, Turkey. The country of Turkey still to this day denies that the Armenia genocide had occurred on their land. Armenians at the time of the genocide were living in the Ottoman Empire, which was also known as the Turkish Empire. World War I was still ongoing around the time that the genocide had happened. When they were kids, Stepan and his brother David were homeless and had to hug each other so that they could stay warm. Serj mentioned that his grandfather Stepan had it more difficult than his brother David. I remember in the book, Serj talked about how horrifying the Armenian genocide period was, as bodies would pile up, and that his grandfather would cry when talking about it to Serj. He made a promise in his book that he would keep his grandfather's story alive. Serj also talked about his father, Kachador, and how he also had dreams of being a musician. His dad was a street kid and bought an Armenian drum. When Kachador was heading towards his music class one day, he met a musician who chatted with Kachador and went back home as the conversation that he had with the musician changed his mind and wanted to be there for his family instead. During his own childhood, Serj and his family fled Beirut, Lebanon in 1975 during the Lebanon Civil War. His family moved to Los Angeles when Serj was 8. Kachador, however, stayed back in Lebanon as he was Syrian. He eventually came to the U.S. a couple of years later. Before he came to the U.S., the place that he was living in Lebanon got bombed one day. In his youth, Serj started listening to music such as Stevie Wonder, the Jackson 5, and Earth, Wind, and Fire. Serj also participated in political activism while he was attending university. He also started getting into music as Serj met Darren Malakian when Darren was 16 years old. As a young adult, Serj became a keyboardist for a cover band and was working on a song called Wacko Jesus. Eventually, Serj and Darren worked on Serj's song, leading up to them forming their own band called Soil. Serj's dad, Kachador, had a successful shoe business once he came to the U.S. The business would close down as Serj's dad got sued, making it difficult as Kachador did not read or speak English. This caused Serj to go to law school as he wanted to help his dad get out of the situation. He ended up hating it as Serj wanted to do other things, most importantly music. It took 10 years for the lawsuit to end as it affected Serj and his family as they moved into a smaller home and sold their big mansion. Serj used to own a software company and worked as an accountant for his uncle's jewelry store. As he was working to provide for his family, Serj focused on his band, Soil. The name Soil was based on Serj's best friend named Paul, who had taken his own life. In the song Soil, some of the lyrics are based on how Serj felt about God taking Paul away. One of the drummers for Soil ended up leaving the band as he moved to Hawaii, causing Serj and Darren to look for other musicians. Darren wanted Shavo Odagian in the band, but they already had a bassist. The group decided to kick out their bassist and bring in Shavo, as Darren felt that Shavo was a better choice. One night, the group were in a car chase incident as the four of them were drunk and Darren was the one driving the car. He got so drunk that Darren drove the gang all the way to their hangout. As the police told them to put their hands up, Darren would not do so as he would fall drunkenly, and the police told Serj and the others that they would not get arrested. This incident inspired the song Mr. Jack, as the name Mr. Jack was probably about Darren. Some of the lyrics also, for example, mentioned the words, "Put your hands up, get out of the car," relating to the car chase. Serj and the group ended up changing their name to System of a Down based on a poem that Darren had written, as it was actually called Victims of a Down. They changed it to System as the band did not want to be seen as victims. When System of a Down began doing shows, Serj would pray before playing but was extroverted about doing it at first. Their original drummer, Andy Kachaturian, would soon get kicked out of the band as he was having issues with drugs and injured one of his hands. They soon got another drummer named John Domayan, who was previously in a band called Frick. Serj was worried that being in a band would financially affect his family, but his father told Serj that he would get a second job so that Serj can continue to make music. He also tried to help his family as Serj was able to sell his software company. When System of a Down were performing at the Viper Room one night, they heard that music producer Rick Rubin was in the building. Rick was known to find artists or bands such as the Beastie Boys, Slayer, and Run DMC. After the show, the band talked to Rick as he was laughing at their performance, but was impressed by System of a Down because of how they connected heavy music with some Armenian folk music. They ended up working together as the band worked at Sound City Studios located at Van Nuys, California. Lead singer from Kiss, Gene Simmons, came by one day at the studio and saw System of a Down's self-titled cover album, which has a hand at the front. Serj recalled that day when Gene recommended to the band that they should have the hand in the cover grab a woman's breasts. Shocking, coming from a well-known rock star. I was being sarcastic, by the way. Serj declined to do what Gene recommended, though, as the band wanted to do their music their way. The hand represented a 1928 anti-fascist poster that was designed by a communist party in Germany. In the text of that poster, it read, "A hand has 5 fingers. With these 5, grab the enemy." In the back of System of a Down's self-titled album, there is a wording inspired by the anti-fascist poster that read, "The hand has 5 fingers, capable and powerful with the ability to destroy as well as create, along with open your eyes, open your mouths, close your hands, and make a fist." Serj would use the open your eyes part in his solo song called Uneducated Democracy. The artwork is a little similar to George Harrison's album, Living in the Material World. Serj heard System of a Down's first single, Sugar, on the K-Rock radio station and was shocked as this was the first song of System of a Down that was played on the radio. While going to the beach, he thought of the lyrics for the Toxicity song. Supposedly, Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit dropped System of a Down from their tour for some reason that I don't remember recalling. Sorry, guys. When it comes to the Armenian genocide, Serj takes it serious and wants the whole world to know and acknowledge that it happened. He even wrote a letter to then-president at the time, Bill Clinton, in order to say that the genocide had happened. System of a Down then created a concert called Souls and raised about $20,000. Serj wanted to write more for their second album, but Darren liked to write all the lyrics. Darren would write the lyrics to the songs in a room by himself. However, in this second album of Toxicity, Serj, Darren, and Shavo were able to work together in this album more so than the next 2 albums that we'll talk about in a little bit. Serj said that the song Bounce was about ballet pajamas. He wrote the lyrics to Bounce, but they had to be changed as the band did not like how it sounded. During the recording sessions of their second album, tensions began to grow with the band as Darren started taking System of a Down's music more seriously. However, he and John would butt heads with each other. Darren did not treat John well and wanted to replace him. One day, Darren and John had a huge fight in the studio where John told Darren something bad about Darren's girlfriend at the time, after Darren called John an F-slur. This caused Darren to throw his guitar at John, but John was able to catch the guitar. Serj tried to separate the two after John pushed Darren to the floor. While on the floor, Darren got a mic stand and used it to hit John's forehead, causing him to bleed. The band ended up going to the hospital as John and Darren are in the back seat of the car. While they were heading towards the hospital, Darren and John managed to calm down. Once they got to the hospital, Serj did not want to fight in the band anymore and told the band that if there were any more arguments, he would quit the band. The stress would get to Serj as he had headaches. Rick recommended Serj to go see a doctor named Nancy. When he went over there to see Nancy, Serj learned how to meditate as it helped him to focus more and have a space for growth. Meditation helped Serj have more compassion for others, as he stated in this book. As if that wasn't enough, it also helped him write System of a Down's song, Aerials, which is actually one of my favorite songs. Originally, Chop Suey was going to be called Suicide, but was changed due to concerns. Serj said in his book that Darren wrote Chop Suey as the song was about drugs. Interesting fact, you can hear at the beginning of the song to Chop Suey, starting with Rolling Suicide. Rick helped with some of the lyrics to Chop Suey with the Bible that he had on his shelf. He told Serj to pick a random page off the Bible as Serj picked the verse from Luke 23:46 and Mark 15:34, with one of the words being Father. System of a Down recorded 40 songs but had to pick a small amount for their second album. The radio station K-Rock did not want to play System of a Down's music at first because they thought that System of a Down's songs were wacky. When System of a Down planned a free concert for their fans at Hollywood, California, the police had to come in and tell the band to not play as there were too many fans. than expected in the area, as the police were worried for everyone's safety. Once someone took System of a Down's banner from the venue, the fans got furious and rioted for 6 hours. They destroyed everything, especially the band's equipment, because the fans waited for hours to hear the band play on stage. As if that wasn't enough for System of a Down, September 11th happened, as it was the day that many people in the US died of terrorist attacks. System of a Down's first single from the Toxicity album, Chop Suey, was banned on the radio, as well as many other songs during that time. After the tragic plane crashes of 9/11, System of a Down received a lot of racism because the US was under a lot of fear between the Arabic, Middle Eastern, South Asians, and Muslim community, as the terrorists were from some of those countries. Some people thought that Armenia was a part of the Middle East, but were not, as they were far from the area. System of a Down's second album had peaked at number 1 on the Billboard charts on the day of 9/11, making it even more stressful for the band. Serj had to speak with Howard Stern moments later about Serj's long post, but luckily Serj was able to calm the situation as System of a Down were receiving hate, as people thought that the band were okay with the attacks. It was a crazy time as the September 11 attacks changed and shook the United States of America to the core. At one point during that time, Serj helped one of his friends from taking their own life, as their friend's situation reminded Serj of his friend Paul, who had taken his own life. Months after Toxicity was released, System of a Down would then release their third album, Don't Steal This Album. Serj did not want to release singles in this album, though. During the time of the third album, Serj attended a party and met a woman named Angela, who did not know who Serj was at first. Serj said in his book that he felt a connection with her and had a feeling that he would see her again. He somehow predicted it, as we'll find out later. At this point, Serj became more political than ever, as some of the songs on the third album had some political views. Around 2003, though, Serj started feeling distant amongst his band members. Serj started feeling like the music with System of a Down was like a job, as he wanted to do more of his own music. Outside of System of a Down, Serj worked with another musician named Buckethead for an album. For those that don't know, Buckethead was in Guns N' Roses at one point. Before System of a Down started recording their fourth and fifth albums, Serj had broken up with another girlfriend and was going through depression. He wanted to write more songs for the next two albums, but could not, as Darren wrote most of the songs, and Serj did not want any negativity with Darren. By that point, Serj had checked out and was taking a break from the band after their Hypnotized album tour had ended. Besides music, Serj tried to spread awareness regarding the Armenian genocide, as there were deniers. He met a guy named Ahmed, who was not able to tell the newspapers about the tragic incident that had occurred, as he told Serj that the Turkish people would burn Ahmed's house down if he were to come out and say that this event had happened. There were also some Turkish people who were not okay with Serj spreading awareness about the genocide. Serj then realized that he was more of an artist than a rock star, as he wanted the Armenia genocide to be acknowledged, and that it did happen. After the Soul Show, which was a benefit concert for Armenia, Serj began dating Angela. Once System of a Down finished the Mesmerize tour, Serj took a break while the rest of the band were not happy about it. When they did the K-Rock Almost Acoustic Christmas concert, Serj said that there was some tension within the band. As Serj and Darren were in the car, Darren had told Serj that Shavo was going to sue him. At that moment, Serj felt betrayed, as he was really close with System of a Down and got scared because when he got sued before, he said that it was very traumatizing. He lawyered up so that he could be prepared, but stated in his book that it almost destroyed the band. Serj also said that during the K-Rock concert, he cried. Even though it was stressful, Serj continued to do the concerts when the Mesmerize album was released. Even the Ozfest show. Once the Ozfest show was over, Serj was pretty much done at that point. After System of a Down performed their last show, they took a long break, and Serj started working on movie scores. He almost worked on the movie score for the Mel Gibson movie, The Passion of the Christ. Serj then started working on his first solo album. John even provided some of his drum work to Serj's album without the credit, as he did not seem to mind. Saving Us was Serj's song that he had written while he was sitting with Angela somewhere. Empty Walls is a song about people lacking empathy. Money and Self-Delusion were about System of a Down. Serj's favorite song off his solo album is Beethoven's C Word. He said that when he was at a late night show, the late Robin Williams was happy to see Serj and his band and called them the Flying C Word. I can't say this word because it's very inappropriate, by the way. System of a Down ended up reuniting in 2010, but Serj said that before the reunion had taken place, they were still keeping contact with each other. Although he was a solo artist and had to tour so that he could promote his album, Serj said that he still hated touring. During that time in 2010, Serj proposed to Angela. One day, Serj's dog killed a hummingbird and tried to save it, but the bird was already gone as it could not be brought back to life. Serj got scared as he thought that this was a bad sign to not get married, but he eventually decided to go with it. He and Angela got married at a ranch, and 2 years after they got married, their son was born. As time went on, Serj and System of a Down got a chance to play in Armenia, but was cancelled at first due to the grass getting in the way of the venues for some reason. It took a while for System of a Down to finally play in Armenia on the 100th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide in 2015. Serj found out that the state of Turkey had System of a Down fans who did not know about the Armenian Genocide. The Turkish government had refused System of a Down to play in their country. When System of a Down performed on Armenian Remembrance Day, it was known to rain on that day every year, and when they played, it was raining. After the concert, Serj felt that he was holding System of a Down back. The reason why Serj felt that way was because of him breaking his back really badly in 2017 that caused him to sit out for 3 to 4 months. Since then, his back has not fully healed, causing him to have trouble standing for periods of time. Serj wanted his bandmates to look for a new singer, as he was okay with them moving forward without him. The band tried, but decided to keep Serj in the band. John ended up marrying Angela's sister, making Serj and John brother-in-laws. Serj stated in his book that he still loves Darren even though they are very different from each other. Lives and Justice Will Shine On were supposed to be System of a Down songs, but did not end up working for System of a Down. Even Rick thought that it was not a good idea for System of a Down to start with those songs, as System of a Down were releasing new songs in order to raise money for aid in Artsakh, Armenia. Hoping to release new System of a Down music, Serj pushed himself for another System of a Down album and was not able to do so because of creative differences. Another reason as to why was because Darren wanted more royalties for the new album. Darren also wanted to do most of the writing for the songs. The band had a meeting that lasted 6 hours but were unable to work something out. Days after the meeting, John and Darren had a fallout around 2018. The new System of a Down album ended up not working out as plans fell through. Darren wanted Serj and John to play the way that he had thought of them playing in his head. System of a Down ended up releasing Protect the Land that was dedicated to the Armenian soldiers, as well as releasing Genocidal Humanoids. Serj mentioned in his book that he was not excited to do the Sick New World at first. On April 24th, 2021, then President Joe Biden acknowledged the Armenian genocide, making Serj happy as he hoped that someday his grandfather's story would be heard. Even though System of a Down have gone their own ways, Serj considers his bandmates as brothers. At the end of the book, he mentions how there are 2 lines destined to meet at some point. I think what Serj meant by it is that when one door closes, another one opens. It could also mean that life changes all the time. You just have to move forward. I give this book a 9 out of 10 because when you listen to the book through Audible, Serj's voice sounds so calming and genuine. Being a System of a Down fan, I was hoping for Serj to talk more about life on the road with System of a Down, but hearing his grandfather Stepan's story was interesting and so sad. It must have been really hard, and I'm glad Serj explained Stepan's story as much as he could. Learning about Serj's life and getting into music was an interesting story as well. The events that happened around 9/11 are very interesting, but very crazy since I was a little girl when this happened. I also had a friend who was Arabic in the 8th grade, and I remember seeing him get bullied. He was a really nice guy if you get to know him, but people at junior high were so mean to him, and it took a long time to understand why they were mean to him. With Serj and the band, it must have been so hard enduring what they endured during that time. Even being an all-Armenian band is very rare in the music industry, especially in the 2000s and earlier. What System of a Down did as a hard metal band is very incredible, and the creativity that Serj brings out has a very big meaning. Whether you're political or not, a lot of their songs have such a unique meaning that is so relatable still to this day. Lost in Hollywood talks about the struggles that celebrities have gone through. The documentary Quiet on Set is about the crazy dark things that child actors endured while on the set of Nickelodeon during the 90s and early 2000s. And the song Lost in Hollywood connects well with this documentary, as some of the lyrics relate to this documentary. If Quiet on Set were to release a soundtrack, this song would be a perfect fit to the soundtrack and what these former child stars had to endure. Then you have BYOB, which talks about the Iraq War. But when you look at today, some of the lyrics to that song are very understandable. An example of the lyrics would be hypnotic computers being similar to people, mostly the younger generation, consuming TikTok and getting fed lies, as well as presidents just sitting at the Oval Desk and not physically fighting in wars or battles, as the soldiers do all the work. But that's just my opinion, by the way, and my thoughts. If you look at the music video for Boom, the music video and lyrics to that song connect to what's going on in the other countries, which is really tough to see. Much similar to Rage Against the Machine, their music has really lent a voice to the people who are afraid to speak. More than ever, I feel like we need this kind of music influence today because of what's been going on with the news. Also, I feel like music connects people in such a powerful and meaningful way that not only is relatable, but helps communicate with everyone. Definitely a great read or listen if you don't like to read. I learned a lot from it, and to be honest, it made me want to connect more with my Mexican roots, as System of a Down's connection to Armenia makes it inspiring. They really love their country and did a lot to spread awareness about that horrible event that claimed thousands of lives. System of a Down even performed at the 100th anniversary of when the genocide had happened, and when you see the entire concert on YouTube, it gives me this powerful feeling that the band and the audience seem to radiate. Serj's story is incredible and a must-read if you want to understand his point of view on why System of a Down is not making any more music. I think it happens to a lot of bands when you keep touring and doing so much work. It really leaves you burnt out. Don't know if this is a good comparison, but the Beatles also broke up after John Lennon and Paul McCartney wanted to do things differently since they thought very different in a creative aspect. Personally, I don't blame any of the members for not being together full time, and at the end of the day, everyone wants to find some sense of identity of their own. Their song Aerials is one of my favorite songs from them. And to hear that Serj meditated and came up with it along with Darren's contribution explains why this song is so meaningful and spiritual. A unique song way different from the funny songs such as Cigaro that define System of a Down for me. Anyway, I hope you guys understand my point of view, and if not, you can let me know in the comment section. Sometimes it can get a little bit confusing. Also, it's really inspiring as to how Serj went to law school, joined a political group while in college, created a software program, became a lead singer of a rock metal band, to spreading the word about Armenia and its tragic past, to being his own artist. That's a lot for one person and makes me want to do more and be active in my life. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care of your mental health and everyone around you, and I'll do the same too. Bye guys.